Welcome to the third office hours in regards to ConnectWise. We are going through the ConnectWise PSA system and purchasing. And purchasing is an underutilized section of the ConnectWise system. So I really want to draw more attention to it. There's some screens here that can make your life a lot easier. One thing I noticed in terms of maturity curve for my MSPs, my Pro AVs, and security companies is that they don't tend to start with the purchasing module right away, but then they do grow into it. So they do get to a point where they want to use the inventory module. They'd like to carry a little bit of extra stock on hand. They're buying for multiple jobs. They're having more and more things come in, starting to leverage drop shipping, etc. So that's where the purchasing module comes in. To build on our last office hours, and if you missed it, you can go ahead and go back and take a look. The only things that are going to come through your purchasing screen are going to be inventory class products and non-inventory class products. So we talked about all these different product classes. Inventory and non-inventory are the ones that you are going to be able to see in the purchasing process. If you are looking for a product and it's not in your purchasing screen, there's a number of reasons. The first being it's probably a service, bundle, or agreement class. Those will not show up in purchasing, only inventory and non-inventory class products. The second reason something might not show up in your purchasing process, and we'll start at the beginning of the process here. Anything on an opportunity is not going to show up for purchasing. When you are putting products on an opportunity, you are just quoting them. You are putting together estimations. You don't know if the client's going to uh, go through or not. Think about it like an add to cart when it comes to an online order. No one's going to do anything with your order until you actually press submit, or in this case, you convert from an opportunity to another record. So your opportunities are your playground to add additional products, change products, etc. Anything you do here will not affect your purchasing people, which is nice and it's good to know. The first time a product is going to become visible to your purchasing flow is when it is converted to a billable record. When I say billable record, I mean a sales order, a service ticket, or a project. So those are the three places where if there are products on a service ticket, sales order, or project, then they will show up in purchasing. And I'm going to go ahead and convert this right now. And hopefully I haven't already converted it, but let's find out. Yes, I have. Okay, so we're going to pick a new opportunity. And when I have my opportunities, I'm going to say new opportunity. I have all these products on it, and I'm going to go ahead and add some more products to it. And again, these wouldn't show up in my purchasing screen. But as soon as I go ahead and convert it, my products are going to be there. One thing to note is you can't convert a product twice. So this is a conversion mention, but if you have products in an opportunity and you convert them to a sales order, a project, or a service ticket, you can't convert them again. You can only convert them once. If I had already converted some of these products, they would not show up here. So if you're ever going to convert something off an opportunity and this product tab is completely blank, it's likely that you've already converted those products. In this case, we haven't. So I've gone ahead and created sales order number 16. I can see that all the products have been converted here. And I'm going to go ahead and check to make sure that some of these are inventory and non-inventory class. They're all inventory and non-inventory class, which is great. The next thing that's going to happen is I'm going to go into my purchasing approvals screen. You may have purchasing approvals turned on, or you might not have turned on purchasing approvals yet. It's a system-wide change, so don't make it lightly and make sure that you notify your team if you're going to be using purchasing approvals. Purchasing approvals, again, underutilized in the ConnectWise system. But what they do is they act as a holding ground for all those products on your sales orders, service tickets, and projects. They sit here in your purchasing approvals screen to be reviewed. Somebody has to go in and approve the products to be purchased. One thing that you'll notice as a theme as we go through this whole office hours is that you don't want to be in a position where you are purchasing in a reactive manner. So you don't want to be purchasing every single day, multiple times a day, in a panic state. You don't want to be purchasing the wrong things or purchasing before demand, which we'll talk about a little bit as well. Purchasing should be very steady. The whole organization should know when you're purchasing and what your purchasing days are. I recommend Tuesday and Thursday to try and do most of your purchasing on Tuesday and Thursdays. And it should be approved by somebody. When I first get into clients, especially on my MSP side, a lot of techs add things to service tickets that need to be purchased, and those items are purchased right away. There's a very good chance that those are really starting to erode your margin or they're not necessary. So the purchasing approvals would be an opportunity for a service manager to go through and look at everything the techs have requested to order and approve them from here. So you might want to have a service manager in charge of everything that's on a ticket. This is a view of anything that's on a service ticket that has been requested to fulfill the demand for the service ticket, to fix the ticket and resolve the ticket, and I can see them all at one glance. The sales orders, so if you're using sales orders, they might be for direct shipments, for product only. I usually use them for box sales, but you might be using them as a stopping ground before you get to your projects. You can look at these and determine if they are ready to be purchased or not. So the sales orders are usually approved by finance. And how you can approve them is by looking at the status of the job that they are on. So when you're in your purchasing approvals screen and you're looking at your sales order, make sure that you have this charge to status visible. This is going to tell you the status of the sales order. If you have a status that says down payment received, for example, that might be the green light to approve products for purchasing. And that's where, when we talk about project management in the coming weeks, your sales order and project statuses can make a huge difference to the flow of your projects. Last step is our projects. So you'll be able to see anything that's projects. Again, I'm looking at that charge to status, and there will be specific statuses that let me know those products are ready to be purchased. I might want to hold back on purchasing something until I collect a down payment, again with the project. So I am going to keep an eye on those statuses. The other things that are going to be in here are some minimum stock level orders, which we'll talk about at the end of this call. And there might be some in regards to agreements. For now, we're going to look for our order number 19, and we're going to approve the products. And maybe it was, let's see, sales order 16. Perfect. So we're going to go order number 16. Here's all the products that need to be approved. You'll see that there are 10 products here, similar to the 10 products listed on my sales order. So all 10 are there, which is great. I'm going to select these products and go ahead and approve them. When I do this, they're going to disappear from the purchasing approval screen. You would like to have the purchasing approval screen be as clean as possible. So you want to make sure that you're approving products as they go through and that there aren't any products that are sort of sitting here as bad data. One way I always audit this screen is to look at the charge to status and see if anything's closed. Obviously, there's no reason for us to buy something for a closed project, sales order, or service ticket. So I like to keep an eye on these and make sure that these don't get approved and we don't buy something we don't need. Staying in with our sales order, you'll recall that we approved 10 items. And now those 10 items have moved from purchasing approvals into purchasing. But here we come to one of the biggest questions and something I get panic calls about a lot, which is that some of the products disappeared between purchasing approvals and purchasing. We had 10 products in the purchasing approval screen, and now we only have 6 products. This is easily resolved, and it's because you have products on hand. I'm going to go back to my sales order and we're going to look at those 10 products that got approved. I'll move this quantity on hand over so that you can see what's happening. I have a lot of this product, ABC123. I have 195 units available as good stock in my warehouse. That means we do not need to purchase this product. So this actually disappears between your purchasing approvals and your purchasing screen because ConnectWise wants you to pick it, use the available inventory you have versus purchase it. All of these disappeared. 1, 2, 3, 4, because they are all on hand and we are going to pick them as opposed to purchase them. With that, there might be a situation in which I actually want to force a solution. So I want to force it so that we do buy this product and we don't use any of the on-hand products. You can do that by indicating it's a special order. So I'll go ahead and click into the product ID, and I'm going to find this pod right here that says purchasing. If I mark this as special order and I hit save and close, this product is now marked as special order and it's going to override the quantity on hand. It's not going to look at the quantity on hand. In my purchasing screen, it's going to come up as something that I need to purchase. So if you would like to purchase a product, even though you have it on hand, the special order is the best way to do this. The other things that you have available to you within that purchasing pod is this drop ship tab or checkbox. The drop ship checkbox is going to indicate that I'm sending it directly to the client site. So it will not be received at my warehouse. It's going to go directly to the client. And when you select drop ship, it's going to gray out the warehouse. It's not going to the warehouse anymore. When a purchase order gets created for this, it's going to inherit the client shipping address. This is why it's very important for your sales orders, projects, and service tickets to make sure that this shipping address is correct. Because when we cut a PO for this, it's going to go directly to this location versus our location. So we've indicated that this product is a special order and a drop ship. You don't really need to do both because if something is a drop ship, it's automatically not going to look at the on-hand quantity, but you're more than welcome to do both if you so choose. Now we have our products that we need to purchase. I can see that one of them is indicated as a drop ship. If I were to go ahead and try and create a purchase order for all these products together, I would get an error. And that looks like this. Under the procurement purchasing screen, I'm looking at my approved products and I'm going to select all of them and go Action, Create PO. When I say this, you see that I have to create a drop ship order separately to the other products. And this makes sense because every purchase order is only going to have one ship to address. If the ship to address for this AMP is the client site and the ship to address for all these other products is my warehouse, I can't combine them on the same purchase order. So instead, I'll create my dropship PO first. I'll select the item that I'd like to purchase. I'll go to Actions, Create PO, and I'm going to go ahead and select the vendor, and the warehouse is going to be grayed out. This is not an option for your dropship POs. I'll hit OK, and I'm going to have a purchase order that gets populated. When I scroll down and I look at the ship to company, I see that it's the client site and that this drop ship to is automatically populated. That's how to create a drop ship PO. Now I can create my regular PO by selecting all the items that I need to purchase, going to the Actions tab, and creating the PO. Just like how you can only have one address on each PO, make sure that you're picking all the same products with the same vendor. Right now, my vendors are not filled out for this purchasing, but it is nice to have a preferred vendor for your products so that you can group your products together by vendor visually easily from your purchasing screen. To create a preferred vendor, we're going to go into the product ID and we're going to scroll down and we're going to move over to the vendor section. Here we can indicate who our preferred vendor is. So who we would like the vendor to be for these products. I'm doing this at a job level. So I'm saying for this job, this is the vendor that we're going to be using. You can also do this at a product level. And so there's the 3 vendors that I've updated. If you want to update this at a product level, which I highly recommend that you do, you can do it in the product catalog. So I'll go into the product. This is the product that's on my job right here. I'm going to click the underlined product ID. And now I'm here in the product setup. So this is the master version of the product. And this is where the master data is stored. If I scroll down here and indicate a preferred vendor, then every time I use this product, that vendor will automatically be populated. This doesn't mean you can't change the vendor. You absolutely can. But having a preferred vendor listed on your products in your product catalog is extraordinarily helpful for purchasing. If I'm the purchaser and I need to cut a PO for Microsoft, I can go like this and filter by everyone who's going to be purchasing from Microsoft. I'll select my products, go to Actions, Create Purchase Order. As you can see, the vendor is already filled out here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And now I've created a purchase order. This is going to significantly speed up your purchasing by having that preferred vendor filled out, because then you can group by vendor and create your purchase orders. I highly recommend it. When you're purchasing, the other thing that a lot of people do is they purchase everything for a vendor altogether. So let's say there's multiple jobs, there's 10 sales orders, and we need to purchase everything from Microsoft. And so we're going to go ahead and group those together and send a purchase order over. That is one way to purchase, but it can be really difficult to receive. So when you have actual physical products coming into your location and they are mixed, so they are for mixed jobs, it's very difficult to receive them, to stage them, to make sure they're allocated to the right job, and to get them back out the door quickly. As such, as you're getting started with the purchasing screen, I recommend using only one job per PO. You can see the job that your product is on by looking at the charge to column. The charge to column is going to tell you which job your product is for. And I'm going to just go back into purchasing approvals and approve some more products so you can get a good sense of what this looks like. When I come to my purchasing screen, I can see all these different charge tos. I'm going to filter and sort by charge to so that I can see them as a group. And then when I purchase, I'm going to make sure that I am purchasing for the same job for the same vendor. It does result in a few extra purchase orders, but it's going to make your life so much easier in the long run. If I'm purchasing for, let's say, this YouTube example project, I would look at everything for the same project. I would probably filter, and then I would select all the items, hit the actions, and create the purchase order. I don't have a Crestron one. Okay. We'll go ahead and purchase these. And now they're all put together on the same purchase order for the same job. I'll go back and continue to purchase. The goal is to have an empty purchasing screen. So if you're watching this video right now, go into your purchasing screen and take a look at how many lines there are here. Chances are there's going to be hundreds, if not thousands of lines if you've never used your purchasing before. That's okay. There's lots of ways to clean it up. You can check out my YouTube channel and you can also contact me directly if you need help cleaning it up. This should be empty, probably twice a week. So because you have your purchasing approvals for anything that has a question mark, that you don't know what to do with, that you're not sure the best way forward, your purchasing screen has been approved. These products are required. You know they're the right product, they're the right color, they're the right everything. So your purchaser should go ahead and clean out this screen by creating purchase orders probably twice a week. The other thing that I want to mention is that the charge to status is also available here. So the charge to status that we looked at in the purchasing approval screen is here. Again, you don't want to be buying things for jobs that are closed. So if you see purchasing with a closed charge to status, a completed, a delivered, etc., I would investigate that product and I would unapprove it to send it back to purchasing approvals for investigation. It shouldn't be sitting in your purchasing screen. Your purchasing screen, again, should be clean. Cannot stress that enough. As you go through, you can change your purchase quantities. I tend not to. I don't usually see this functionality, but you can change the quantity that you're purchasing from here if you decide that you don't want to purchase all of the items for the job. So if I go ahead and change that to 8, and then I select my item and create a purchase order, then it's going to only create a purchase for 8. Another thing I want to mention is once a purchase order is created, so you have your purchase order, you've created it like I have from the purchasing screen, you're going to have your product tab, and you're also going to have your sales and service information tab. This sales and service information tab is a great tab. This is awesome, and it's probably not used enough. It shows you what job that product is for. So it's going to tell me that these cables are for ticket number 588. I can see that right away, and I can see that from the purchase order. So when I go to receive this product, I can check the sales and service information tab and know what job this is for directly from the purchase order. Really can't express enough how great that is. The other nice thing is that this information is carrying through all of ConnectWise. So if you're the person purchasing, pay attention to the next bit because you're going to educate the rest of your organization in regards to seeing if there has been a purchase order created and what the status of that purchase order is. Everyone I know in purchasing gets 1,000 emails. What's the status of this? Has my product been ordered? Has it come in yet? Etc. My goal is to minimize or completely eliminate those emails because if you are on this ticket, number 588, and you are looking at your products on this ticket, you can, from this view, see if it's been purchased. So you're going to scroll over and find this PO info column. If that's not available to you, go into the gear and find it in the hidden column and then move it over to the visible columns. Once you can see it, drag it over and open it up. Let's make it as wide as possible. The reason being is that I can tell from this that this product right here is on a purchase order. It's on purchase order number 1038. The PO status is new. So this purchase order is in a new status and the product is open. That's a lot of great information and it gets better from there. Because as soon as this product gets received, and I'm going to receive it from the PO, but I'll show you how to receive it in the receiving screen as well. I'll receive this product and I'm going to go back into that ticket. As soon as I do that, I can see that this product has been received. So this has come in, this product has been received. We have received it. It's good to go. Now, the quantities are different because I changed that quantity at the beginning. So there's a quantity of 10 required and I've only received 8. This picked quantity is going to show you how many has been allocated to your job. So there actually is still going to be 2 required for this job, but this PO info is going to give me all the information I need at a glance. If I click into the product, I can see the PO info in this pod right here. Oh, I'm too zoomed in. And I can see that it has been picked and not yet shipped. The PO info is going to be down here. So this is my PO info pod. I can actually click directly into the purchase order from here if I so choose, and I can see all the information. What's nice about this is that if you do decide to include a tracking number and you put it in, then people can check the tracking number. Awesome. All right, so we've gone through lots of information. The products get added to an opportunity, then the products get converted once to a sales order, project, or service ticket. As soon as they get converted to a billable record, if you have purchasing approvals turned on, they're going to show up in your purchasing approvals screen. If you don't have purchasing approvals turned on, they're going to go directly to your purchasing screen. Purchasing approvals acts as a parking lot or a holding ground where you can approve or unapprove products and make sure that they stay there as you investigate, look into them, make sure they're the right product. Your purchasing screen represents everything that is approved, ready to go. Purchasing screen should be cleared out at least once a week. And the more information you put into your product catalog in regards to preferred vendors, the faster and easier you're going to make your purchasing process. There is the purchase date, which is a little bit expert level. So I don't think we'll talk about that in this one. If anyone's curious, just drop a comment below or let me know and we'll do one, maybe a purchasing 2.0. Now, you've done all this great work. You've created your purchase orders. I find a great quick win or something that I highly recommend everyone does pretty early on in this process is to give your purchase orders better statuses. Out of the box, I think it's just new, on hold, and closed. And that doesn't really represent everything that you need to know or that your techs need to know or that your PMs need to know in regards to your products. So I like to add at least an on hold status where the vendor needs more information. Maybe the vendor needs dropship information if it's going to a site, or they need a site contact for a dropship. They need more information in regards to when this is required, etc. I do like to put in an order confirmed. That's usually the second status. So as a purchaser, what I would use to do is create a new purchase order. Then I would send it to a vendor. And as soon as it got sent to the vendor and I got the sheet back that said, here's your order, here's how much it would be, etc., that's when I put it into an order confirmed status. This is a great status because it signifies to everyone that the vendor knows this has been placed, that it has all been looked at and the costs are correct, and we are good to go. Part of the reason for this is that when you send in a purchase order, you might be sending it in with the wrong cost. If you're using an old price sheet, if you haven't purchased this product in a while, whatever the case may be, there's a chance that you send your purchase order in, your costs are wrong, your vendor sends a confirmation form back, and you find out that the costs have changed. The absolute best time to solve this is before you receive the product. So that's why you can't just send a purchase order and forget about it. Look at that order confirmation. Check to make sure that the total matches exactly the total that you got back from the vendor. If not, this is your chance to change the cost. So you're going to go to your product, you're going to open it up, and you're going to change the cost. Let's say this had a $50 price increase on it. This is going to change the cost here. It's also going to change the cost on my job when I receive it. So this will feed back into your job costing, and this will affect your margin. Not something that you should do lightly, but it is something that you need to do to make sure your purchase order matches the invoice you're eventually going to get. If you change it now, that's great. You'll still be able to change it. Once you receive a product, you can't change the cost. So if I go in here and look at this product I've received, this cost is grayed out. I cannot change the cost after I've received it. So make sure you're changing the cost. Make sure that you have the exact same total. And as soon as that happens, you're going to go into an order confirmed status. Then you'll likely wait for the product to actually come in. Hopefully everything goes well. You should have auto close turned on for your purchase orders. So as you receive your last product, it just goes to closed. That's the best case scenario. But if there is a back order, if there is a problem with this, it might be helpful to have a PO status indicating what's going on. Maybe there are additional charges that are too large for you to just add to the cost, and they require escalation internally. You could indicate that this requires escalation, and when you do that, please put some internal notes in. If you have a long lead time, if you're waiting for this product, you can go ahead and put the tracking number in, and I'll post a different video on how to make those tracking numbers dynamic. So if you put a UPS tracking number in and then you hit that little web search button, it'll actually pull up the UPS screen and you'll be able to follow that shipment and delivery along. You can put a tracking number at the header level of the purchase order. So lucky you, your whole purchase order is shipping together. Amazing. That almost never happens for some industries. If you have products that are shipping separately and they have different tracking numbers, you can also add the tracking number at the line level. So when you add your tracking number, you could do it at a product level to indicate that your products are going to be shipping separately, which is what I see more often. These PO statuses are helpful because remember, these are visible to everyone. So if I'm on a project, for example, I can see the PO info, I can scroll over and see that some of my products require escalation. So I know that these products are not received and that there is some sort of escalation, some sort of issue involved with these products. Next up, receiving. We've done purchasing, we've updated our PO statuses. We have PO statuses that reflect the actual purchasing process that happens within our organization. We've updated the tracking numbers. Our costs are all perfect. Amazing. As you're getting started, you're probably receiving by purchase order, which is fine. You just go into the purchase order section, type in the PO number, open up the PO, go to the product, and then receive it. All well and good, but let's say you get 5 skids of products all showing up at the same time and you need to receive a lot of stuff quickly. You can do that faster from the procurement receiving screen. I love this screen. This shows everything that you have that's on a purchase order which has not been received. Finance should love this screen because it's your open liabilities. So this is everything that you have not yet received, very likely haven't yet paid for, and it's sitting out in the ether. Just like anything else, this screen should be up to date. So if you're seeing purchase orders that are very, very old in your system, there's a chance that you never received them or that you physically received them, but you didn't receive them digitally. So again, lots of cleanup is useful on this screen. Once you have it up to date, what you should be able to do is look at your packing slip and go ahead and type in the PO number that you're looking at. That's going to show you the product. And as you continue to scroll across, you can actually see the project name right here. So this is great for when you're purchasing for projects because you don't need to do all those clicks that we did before. From the receiving screen, in just one search, I can find my PO number, the project it's for, what the product is, what the purchase quantity is, and I can go ahead and receive from here. This is a much faster way to receive, and then you can also bulk receive based on POs, or you can bulk receive based on jobs. If I have multiple POs come in for the same job, let's say it's for, let's see if we have a group of ones for a project. Yeah, so if I had this one for the upgrade, I can see that there's 2 different POs here. That's fine. If they're both here, I can go ahead and receive those products. Receiving screen, great way to receive quickly. You'll notice as we go through that I have some things like freight listed as products on my purchase orders. I handle freight a little bit differently, and this is because I am obsessed with job costing. And I want to make sure that anytime we do any job, I'm capturing the entirety of the cost for that job. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how I add freight, tariffs, those kinds of things to jobs to make sure that they get purchased. Let's say for this purchase order right here, I sent it in. So it was in a new status. I sent it in and I was told that there's actually going to be a shipping charge of $130. This is new information to me, and I can put the shipping charge in one of 2 places. First up, you can put the freight cost here. This adds the freight cost to the overall purchase order. And this can go into a separate GL code. So if you would like, you could have this freight go into a separate GL code. You could group all your freight charges together, and then you could do some kind of analysis on them afterwards. This is helpful when you are doing multiple jobs on the same purchase order and you want to sort of take your freight cost and smooth it over a lot of different jobs. However, if you have a sizable freight charge, If you have a freight cost that is specific to a job and you want it costed against that job, this is not the place to put it in. I'm going to leave that at 0, and instead I'm going to go to the job itself. So I can see these products that are on this job. I'm going to go to the sales and service information. I'm going to open up the ticket, and I'm going to put a freight charge directly on the ticket, because later I'll be doing a cost benefit or a P&L on this specific ticket or this project or this sales order. And I don't want some freight charge sort of sitting out in the ether that I didn't know was attached to this job. So for this, I'm going to go to the product tab and I'm going to add a freight charge. Some things you'll notice. Freight charges, I put them in as a non-inventory class, non-inventory type charge. I always put them as a quantity of 1 and a unit price of $0. If this is a freight charge that we are incurring and we are not charging the customer, I put it in as a $0 price and a default cost. But for this situation, it's $130, so I'm going to change it. It is set to do not bill. So this is not going to show up on your bill of materials when you send the invoice to the client. This is not going to be visible. Everyone's worried about that. That's not the case. It's going to be do not bill. What you can see is that this is removing $130 from my margin. And that's exactly what I want. I want to know the actual profitability of this ticket. So I added the freight charge directly to this job so that I can keep it all in one place. I want to add it to this purchase order, which is purchase order number 35. I'll go find the product, which is going to be in my purchasing approval section. And it's taking a second to load, so we'll be patient. And we're going to find our freight charge. And this is for this one right here. I'm going to go ahead and I would like to add these to a PO. I don't think I can do that from here. So I'm just going to approve it. Go into purchasing, look for my freight charge. And it is for this one. And I'm going to add it to a PO. This is a functionality where if you have a purchase order and you want to add more products to it, you can do that from the purchasing screen. So I'll add to PO. I'm going to add it to PO number 35, and it's going to disappear from my purchasing screen. This has now added the freight charge as a product. So this freight charge is sitting here at $130 cost. It has made sure that my total is the same as the vendor confirmation. So I can change this to order confirmed. Now, this is going to be against the job. When I receive the other things on this, I am going to also receive the freight charge. So I'm going to go ahead and receive products and receive everything. And this is now locked against the job. These are great for freight charges, for subcontractor charges. I actually use this for all my subcontractor labor because I want to create a purchase order for them, for tariffs, for things like that that you want to attribute directly to a job. As you can imagine, this gets a lot more complicated if you're bundling multiple jobs together on the same purchase order, which is why I don't recommend that you do it. I recommend that you keep all your jobs clean and that you have one purchase order per one job per purchase order. You'll probably have more than one purchase order per job. That's how you go through the purchasing screen, the receiving screen, and you keep an eye on your purchase orders. When I used to work in purchasing and when purchasing was my whole life, my week would look a little something like this. So I would on Mondays come in, look at the purchasing approvals, go through, see if there's anything that's in a bad charge to status. So if it's closed, anything that needs to be investigated. And I would send out all my notes to say, hey, what's going on with these things? As well, I would look through the purchasing approvals to see if there were any products that might be on back order that I know are issues with that have a longer lead time. And I would indicate to the rest of the company and say, I know this is sitting in purchasing approvals. I would recommend approving it sooner rather than later so I can get it purchased. Then on Tuesdays, I would go to my purchasing screen and I would buy everything possible from the purchasing screen. On Wednesdays, I would go into my purchase orders. I would have all my confirmations back from my vendors, and I would make sure that everything was changed from a new status to some other status. Think about this like a service ticket. Your POs, if you're a purchaser order, are the same and require SLAs and updates just like a service ticket. So on Wednesdays, I would make sure that everything had moved to an order confirmed status, or if it needed to be escalated, I would put it in a requires escalation, whatever the case may be. I would know that I was done when there were no new purchase orders in the purchase order screen. Then I would say, okay, great. I did everything I needed to do. I would receive every single day. So every single day, I would always make sure that receiving gets done within 24 hours. If you don't receive within 24 hours, products will go missing. You have less of a leg to stand on in regards to going back to your vendors and communicating that they might have misshipped something, something's damaged, etc. So receiving is done every day, non-negotiable. Uh, and then on Thursdays, I would go back into my purchasing screen, see if there were any stragglers, see if there was anything else that had been approved from earlier in the week, following up on those questions, create purchase orders, etc. And then on Fridays, I would probably just check all my open purchase orders again and have a more relaxing day. The last screen that we're going to look at and we're going to introduce is the product pick and ship screen. So you'll recall from the very beginning when we had 10 items in purchasing approvals and then we approved them and only 6 went to purchasing because we had some on hand. That is because you are supposed to pick those items. How do you know where those products are and how do you get a list of what you need to pick all in one place? That's going to be under your procurement product pick and ship screen. And the product pick and ship screen is very useful if you know how to use it. Usually it's a complete mess. Again, if yours is a complete mess, don't worry about it. I've seen worse. I like to look at the not shipped tab. So when you come in here, it's going to say not picked, not shipped, shipped. I like to move my not shipped tab over to the left because that's the one I tend to work with. Here you can see everything that has a quantity to pick. And what that means is that for this rally bar right here, I have a bunch of jobs that need a rally bar, and I have 57 on hand. So I have quite a few of these on hand, which means when I approve this product from purchasing approvals to purchasing, it's going to disappear because it's going to say, no way, you have way too many of these. Use the stock you have on hand first. As a result, I like to look at anything that has a positive quantity on hand and a quantity to pick larger than 0. So I'm going to sort by that to see all these. These require me to go to my inventory shelves, take the product off an inventory shelf. And when I say shelf, I might be being generous. It might just be a little storage locker or something like that, or it might be a full-blown warehouse. But you should have your inventory separate from your jobs. Take your inventory product, label it for this job, order number 11, and mark it as picked. When I do that, I am saying that I am taking one item out of stock and allocating it to this job. When I pick that product, and this is a huge pain because it doesn't tell you where it's from, but that one worked. It's going to disappear from my product pick and ship screen because this product has now been picked. So I don't need to worry about it. It's down here. The quantity to pick is now 0, and I know that I have picked this product. I would go through and pick everything possible, especially in the beginning. People always ask me when to pick as early as you can. The earlier you pick, The more you can tell if the product really is on the shelf, you can find out if your on-hand inventory count is correct. If it's not, you can do an adjustment, you can create a purchase order, you can fix it. Don't wait until the last minute to pick. You can pick too early, especially if the product has not been approved yet. So you'll recall that purchasing approval to purchasing. This approved checkmark is that indicator. So if something has moved from purchasing approval to purchasing, it's ready to be picked. If the approved is blank, then that has not been approved yet. That product is still sitting in purchasing approval, and I probably wouldn't pick those. I would pick everything that's approved every day. When we're talking about what do you do every day, this screen should have nothing that has been approved, check mark, with a quantity to pick at the end of the day. Ideally, once you're done, you should see quantity to pick 0 the whole way down for anything that's been approved. That's how you know that you're caught up on your picking and that everything has been allocated. What I see a lot of, especially on my Pro AV side, is that there's a quantity on hand of mounts, for example, and then there's 20 jobs that all have mounts against them. And the company waits to pick, waits to pick, waits to pick. And then all of a sudden they go ahead and pick all the products at once. When they do this, they find out that some of the mounts are damaged, that some of the mounts are mislabeled, that they don't have all the mounts that they thought they were going to have. And they go through that stack very quickly. And then all of a sudden it's an emergency and we're buying more mounts. So even if you're going to not ship it yet, even if you're just going to have it sitting in your warehouse, pick it, label it for the job, put it with the rest of the job, or at least label it for the job, just so that you know that what you have in the system is representative of the physical stock that you actually have. Once you're all done picking, great job, you're good. The next thing to do is to make sure that you're shipping products. So you should be shipping products from the sales order, project ticket, or service ticket as they actually go out the door. You need to ship something to be able to print a packing slip, which again, I have a different video for. If you are not shipping things on time, which is fine, again, see it all the time, you can clean it up by looking at anything with a quantity to pick of 0. So look at your quantity to pick of 0 and see what your quantity to ship is. These are all things that have been picked and not shipped yet. I, again, like to look at my charge to status, which I'm very grateful that you can see it from here. And to quickly clean this up, I like to look at anything that might be closed. So we'll see if anything is in a charge to status of closed. No, which is great. Do we have anything in a, let's say it's on hold? I might investigate these and see if these products have actually already been shipped. And if they have, I'm just going to update them in the system. So I'm going to select the actions and ship these products, and they're going to ship, which is great. As a last note, because there's been tons of information today, the product class on the Not Shipped tab is always going to default to inventory class. Because we're using some things like that freight charge and subcontractors, you're going to have things that are in your non-inventory class. So make sure you also look at your product class of non-inventory. And when we come back to those freight charges we talked about earlier, they need to be shipped to clear the demand in the system. So we're going to make sure that we're shipping these on a regular basis. Remember how I talked about that Easy Friday? Maybe on Friday you come in and you ship all your non-inventory class products, you check all your shipping, you make sure everything's up to date. That's purchasing in a nutshell, and that nutshell is an hour long. But if you have any questions or anything to add, please feel free to let me know.